Good afternoon. Here is the national news from BGI TV Current. I am Morire Rabila Lawal. First are the major headlines. Efcc invites 8 Buhari ministers over corruption allegations. Fire outbreak. FG calls on governments and governors to invest in firefighting. Reps reject motion to declare national emergency on Jacques syndrome. NMDPRA licenses 3 oil marketers to commence petrol importation from July. Man vandalizing transformer dies of electrocution in Kogi. And on sports, Super Falcons can reach semi-finals. Captain Ebi. Now the news in detail. The nation's #1 anti-corruption agency, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), has reportedly invited 8 former ministers who served under former President Muhammadu Buhari. Sources disclosed that the 8 former ministers were all invited for questioning over allegations bordering on corruption. The invitation letters, according to sources, requested the former top government officials to come and explain how they spent funds allocated to their ministries on some designated projects when they held sway at their respective positions. Information report that the letter was extended to the former ministers before the suspension of Abdulrashid Bawa as chairman of the commission. The anti-graft agency had commenced investigations. The source said apart from the former ministers of women affairs, Pauline Talin, who was invited last week over alleged 2 billion naira fraud and part of the money allegedly diverted from the African First Lady Peace Mission project, about 7 others have also been invited. It would be recalled that Saleh Mamman, also a former minister of power under former President Buhari, was last month arrested and detained by the commission in connection with an alleged 22 billion naira fraud related to power projects. Also, it was learned that the immediate past Minister of Police Affairs, Mohammed Megari Ningiadi, had also been summoned over how he spent the police trust fund was handled. Speaking further on condition of anonymity, the source said Dingyadi would provide answers to allegations of purchasing refurbished vehicles for the Nigerian police as new. And to the next story. The federal government has called on the state governors to take up the responsibilities of fighting fire in their respective states. The newly appointed permanent secretaries of the Ministry of Interior, Dr. Oluwatoyin Akinlade, made the call during our official visit to the headquarters of the Federal Fire Service (FFS) on Thursday. While noting that fire service is on the concurrent list, she said the state must step up to assist the FFS in combating fire outbreaks across the country. Dr. Akinlade said the personnel and facilities of the FFS were being overstretched because the state have not been supportive. I'm appealing to state government to also play their roles and support the Federal Fire Service, the permanent secretary said. While commending the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, for the huge investment in the purchase of fire equipment, she called on the current administration under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to do more for the service. She also called on the FFS to prioritize sensitizations of Nigerians so they know how to access its services. Earlier, while delivering his brief, the Controller General of the FFS, Jaji Abdul Ganiyu, said the service had moved from a moribund agency of government to what can now be described as one of the leading agencies through procurement of state-of-the-art firefighting equipment. Moving on to the next story. The House of Representatives has rejected a motion to declare a state of emergency on factors causing young Nigerians to relocate abroad. The motion titled Need to Declare Immigration of Young Nigerians Abroad, aka Jacques syndrome, a national emergency, was sponsored by Philip Agbese, a lawmaker representing Ado Okpoko or Badigo Federal Constituency of Benue State. While moving the motion, Agbese, a member of the All Progressive Congress APC, said reports by African Polling Institute indicate that 69% of young Nigerians would opt to relocate abroad if they had the opportunity. It said, the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs reported that international emigration from Nigeria in 2020 totaled 1.7 million, a substantial increase from 990,000 in 2010. The legislator said the growing statistics of young Nigerians relocating abroad portends a great danger for the nation in many ways, ranging from economic to intellectual and social aspects. Efcc warned that if the Japa situation continues with the nation's best brains and skilled personnel leaving, the country may fall into grave crisis. He therefore prayed the House to ask the federal government to convene a national summit with key stakeholders to effectively address the Japa syndrome. Efcc also asked the House to declare a state of emergency on the factors that predispose young Nigerians to give up on Nigeria in preference for other nations. A video shortly.
As a Yoruba coinage, which translates to leaving the country, has become the new catchphrase for migration by desperate Nigerians in search of greener pastures. A report by the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs put the international emigration from Nigeria in 2020 at 1.7 million from 990,000 in 2010. That figure has since grown. Poor living wages, growing insecurity, unemployment, and poor living conditions are some of the reasons adduced. Sectors such as health, information, technology, education, and banking suffer the most.
Second emotion, ably move.
It is in addressing the astronomical increase in the number of young brains getting out of the country that Benue legislator Philip Agbese comes with a motion aiming for a national summit that will address these predisposing factors.
In line with the renewed hope team of the President Bola Tinubu administration, the triggers that predispose young Nigerians to find a choice to leave the country attractive, which make young people frustrated, demands a declaration of state of emergency in order to address this syndrome.
But the motion failed to fly, as some members insist it contravenes the provision of the Constitution.
It's the liberty of a Nigerian if he is qualified and he is normal and he has all the grant rights of movement anywhere he wants.
Let there be national summit so that all these factors will be given priority.
In another motion, the lawmakers resolved to probe the unending problem of gas flaring by some oil companies with a view to finding a lasting solution.
In the last decade, approximately $9.05 billion has been lost to gas flaring. This money would have offset 23.62% of the country's total foreign debt of $38.32 billion.
Meanwhile, the sponsor of the motion of the Japa syndrome says he will represent it before his colleagues.
The motion failed because, as it is not an issue that people who are just coming out of election have been able to abreast themselves with. But I believe that in the next couple of days, I'm going to visit my colleagues. I'm going to talk to them.
The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, says 3 oil marketers will start importing petroleum products from next month. Farouk Ahmed, Chief Executive Officer, CEO, NMDPRA, disclosed this on Wednesday during a meeting with oil marketers. According to a statement on the authority's official Twitter handle, the meeting was held to raise awareness on the requirement of the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA, regarding the full deregulation and importation of petrol. Speaking during the event, Ahmed emphasized the urgent need for product standardization to prevent situations where consumers might be cheated by the importation of off-spec products into the country. He said the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, had agreed to reduce its petrol import volume to give room for other players in the industry. Therefore, any marketer licensed to import petroleum products must comply with set guidelines. Already 3 oil marketers will from July this year start importing petroleum products into the country, he said. Ahmed added that the oil marketers also reached an agreement to enhance cooperation with security agencies with the aim of facilitating the seamless supply and distribution of petroleum. In his inaugural speech on May 29, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu declared that the petrol subsidy payments had stopped, although the president's media team later clarified that the implementation of the policy would commence this month. Post-subsidy realities kicked in immediately, sending the price of product to high levels. Conforming to the President's directive, NNPC announced the adjustment of the pump price across its retail outlets nationwide. Mele Kyari, Group Chief Executive Officer, GCEO, NNPC, had said, due to the enabling environment that the subsidy removal would engender, all marketed companies will be able to import petrol. Moving on to Kogi State. A man, Olukuluku Kabiru, was on Thursday electrocuted while vandalizing the transformer of the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company at a substation on Camp Road in the Lokoja area of Kogi State. The manager of the power distribution firm, Michael Eneromi, said the firm was contacted after the corpse was found at the substation, adding that the transformer at the station had been the subject of repeated vandalism. Just last week, we fixed the transformer following a report by the community after it was vandalized. Yesterday, following another report of vandalism on the same transformer, we sent a letter requesting about 1.9 million naira to fix the transformer, he said. Eneromi said the electrocution of the Vandal exonerated the firm from insinuations made by people that workers of the firm were behind the vandalism of electricity infrastructures in the state. This is my 20 years of working as a staff member of NEPA AEDC. I make bold to say never have there been incident of vandalism by our staff. I'm happy that the people can confirm these alongside others in Lokoja that mischief makers are behind the wicked act. As of the time of filing this report, the corpse had been deposited at the mortuary of the Federal Teaching Hospital, Lokoja, by the police and the AEDC officials. From the story from Kogi State, we go to sport from the Super Falcons camp. Super Falcons captain Onome Ebi believes his team can make it to the semi-finals at the 2023 FIFA World Cup coming up. Randy Waldron side will lock arms with co-hosts Australia, Canada, and Republic of Ireland in Group B. The 9-time African champions were eliminated in the round of 16 by Germany 4 years ago in France. Ebi is however confident she and her teammate can do better this time around at the Mondial. As a team, we want to do better than we did at the 2019 World Cup in France. Being totally honest, I think we can aim for the semi-finals. We've got high quality, experienced players and some really talented young stars, the 40-year-old told FIFA.com. It really is doable and it's up to us to grab the chance with both hands and show the world that we are Nigeria and that we are not just there to make up the numbers in the competition. I'm already for the 6th World Cup and we are ready as a team to get through the semi-finals. With the sports story, we end the national news this hour from BGI TV Current. Before we go, some major headlines. Efcc invites 8 Buhari ministers over corruption allegations. Fire outbreak, FG calls on governors to invest in firefighting. Refs reject motion to declare national emergency on Japa. NMDPRA licenses 3 oil marketers to commence petrol importation from July. Man vandalizing transformer dies of electrocution in Kogi. And on sports, Super Falcons can reach semi-finals. Captain Onome Ebi declares. For all of our broadcasts on YouTube, our handle is BGI TV Current. Kindly subscribe and click on the notification bell. Select option all to access all of our broadcasts. On Facebook, Bagede Imo with Alawiye Adebayo. Please like and follow the page. For ad replacement, if you goods and services, coverage of events and functions, please dial the phone number streaming on your screen for ad replacements only. Thank you for watching. Jomat Mufida to all faithful Muslims all around the world. I am Moribe Rabila Lawa. Good afternoon.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.